I used to think that moving into a nursing home was the best way to live peacefully in old age. But just a few months in, I realized that some things are more precious than comfort, like freedom, a sense of purpose, and feeling like yourself. If you or a loved one is considering a nursing home, please take 10 minutes to hear my story, because there are things that, once lost, are very hard to get back. At the age of 82, I don't regret growing old. What I do regret is believing that a nursing home was where peace and care truly lived. I went in hoping to ease the burden, to make my children feel at ease. But as the days passed, I slowly lost pieces of myself in ways I never expected. In today's video, I want to share with you the 10 truths I wish someone had told me earlier. These aren't things you'll find in a glossy brochure or hear in a friendly tour. They're only things you learn when you've lived it yourself. I'm not sharing this to complain. I'm sharing it so that you can take control, make informed choices, and protect your dignity and independence until the very end. Do you have aging parents? Have you ever heard the words assisted living or nursing home without thinking much about them? Or maybe you're quietly wondering about your own future? Wherever you are in your life journey, I believe this story will help you see more clearly, care more deeply, and avoid the painful mistakes I once made. So what was the very first shock when I entered the nursing home? It was this: the feeling of being cared for can sometimes be the quiet way you lose control over your own life. Let's begin there. Number 1, the illusion of safety. When care means control. The illusion of safety. When care quietly turns into control. The day I moved into the nursing home, my daughter hugged me tightly and said, "Dad, you'll be better cared for here. There are nurses on site and you won't have to worry about a thing." I looked around. The place was spotless, hallways well lit. I thought to myself, maybe she's right. But just a week later, I realized I had entered a completely different world. A place where even the smallest decisions, what to eat, what to wear, when to sleep, were no longer mine. Clear explanation. When care becomes a quiet barrier, many people believe that being fully cared for is ideal in old age. But the truth is, when you no longer have a say in your daily routine, you start losing the will to live. I couldn't choose when to eat. Breakfast was at 7 a.m., even if I wasn't hungry. Lunch at 11:30, even if I was still full from breakfast. I asked, "Can I eat a bit later?" They smiled politely but firmly. "Sorry, sir, this is the schedule for the entire wing. Want to take a walk outside? You have to ask in advance. You need an escort, and the staff are always too busy." So eventually I stopped asking. Real-life example. Even a simple morning was no longer mine. I remember a Monday morning clearly. I woke up earlier than usual and craved a cup of coffee, just like I had made for myself for the past 40 years. But my room had no kitchen, no kettle. I called to request a cup of coffee and waited 45 minutes. When it arrived, it was cold, weak, and unfamiliar. I sat there quietly in a clean, well-equipped room, but I felt like an uninvited guest. I used to be a father, a craftsman, the man of the house. Now I was room 204, requesting help to change bed sheets. Lesson learned. Safety does not equal living. Perhaps what I regret the most isn't moving into the home, but believing that safety was the most important thing. Because once that safety comes at the cost of your freedom, your personality, and your ability to make even the smallest decisions in your day, that's not care anymore. It's control, disguised in kindness. And when your freedom quietly slips away, the next thing that disappears is even more painful. Your connection with the people you love, even though they promised they'd always be there. Once I stopped being part of their daily life, I slowly became someone easy to forget. Join me in the next chapter. The loneliness nobody talks about. The quiet isolation no one warned me about. Number 2, the loneliness nobody talks about. The kind of loneliness no one tells you about, and it becomes even scarier when you're afraid to admit it. The first day I moved into the nursing home, the room still smelled like fresh wood. A photo of my daughter and 3 grandkids sat neatly on the bedside table. She hugged me tightly before leaving and said, "We'll come a visit every week, Dad. Don't worry. You won't be lonely." I believed her, and for the first few weeks, everything felt just like she promised. They came every Sunday. The kids ran down the hallway, filling the space with laughter and the warm scent of home-baked muffins. But then, life, as it always does, found its way to pull people in other directions. Loneliness isn't caused by absence, but by being forgotten. You can be in a room full of people and still feel invisible. Nursing homes are never truly empty. There are staff, caregivers, other residents sitting quietly at tables. But loneliness here isn't loud. It's quiet, like a shadow that follows you. It doesn't come from having no one around. It comes when the person you're waiting for simply doesn't show up. I started to notice it when the visits became fewer. My daughter started calling instead of coming, and the promises, "We'll definitely be there this weekend," slowly turned into, "Sorry, Dad, we're really busy this time." The moment I realized I had been left behind, I remember a Saturday afternoon. I wore the blue shirt my daughter once said, "That color really suits you, Dad." I sat in the common area, staring at the big main door. Each time it opened, my heart beat faster, but it was never them. 3 hours passed. I was still sitting there, my lemonade completely melted. No one came. I went back to my room, turned off the light. I sat in the dark, picked up my phone, opened the contacts list, and tapped on my daughter's name. Then, I put the phone down. I was afraid to disturb her, afraid of becoming a burden. Lesson learned: out of sight, out of mind. I don't blame my children. Life gets busy. Everyone has families, work, packed schedules. But I wish someone had told me this. When you step outside of your loved one's everyday rhythm, you also start stepping outside of their attention. Not because they don't love you, but because you're no longer present in their daily world. Loneliness isn't just about being alone. It's about feeling like you no longer belong anywhere. And when your connection to the outside world fades, you begin to ask yourself, if there's no one left to look forward to, no reason to get up each morning, then what exactly am I living for? In the next chapter, I'll share something even deeper than loneliness: losing my sense of purpose. When you no longer have a reason to wake up in the morning. Number 3, losing my sense of purpose. When you no longer have a reason to wake up in the morning. Before I moved into the nursing home, every morning I woke up with a purpose. I'd make coffee, water the little flower pots on the porch, jot a few thoughts in my journal, then check the mailbox. I felt needed. I had a role. I had small responsibilities, and they meant the world to me. But once I moved in here, everything was done for me. And you know what? When no one needs you to do anything anymore, that's when you start wondering what you're living for. Losing your role means losing part of yourself. Many people think that going into a care home means you finally get to rest. No more chores, no more grocery lists, no more cooking or cleaning. But rest only has meaning if you've had something to rest from. When each day passes without a task, without a reason, you begin to feel invisible. Everything here is well taken care of. Meals, bed sheets, medications, all handled. But no one needs me to water the plants. No one asks me to fix a squeaky hinge or share thoughts on what's for dinner. I used to be a capable husband, a hands-on father. Now, there's simply nothing left for me to take care of. Real-life example: the old man in the silent toolbox. There's a man down the hall named George. He was a carpenter, hands always busy crafting, repairing. When he moved in, he brought with him a small wooden toolbox with a few old tools inside. He said, "I brought it just in case I get to fix a table or chair. Makes me feel useful." But no one let him fix anything. The facility had maintenance staff. They worried it was unsafe for an elderly man to tinker around. So that toolbox sat untouched under his bed for 6 months. Never opened, never used. And George, once so lively, now sits silently by the window all day, as if he's searching for something he's lost. Lesson learned: we don't just live by breath, we live by purpose. I learned this the hard way. Every person needs something to do, not for the task itself, but for the meaning it gives. Even small things like making a cup of tea, folding a blanket, watering a plant, These seemingly trivial acts are what keep us grounded in time. They tell us we still matter. And you know what? When you lose your purpose, your body starts to respond too. You slow down, you weaken, and eventually you feel tired, even when you haven't done anything at all. In the next chapter, I'll tell you something no one warned me about: declining health faster than expected. When your health begins to deteriorate, not from illness, but from inactivity. Number 4, a home without heart. When familiarity disappears, a house without warmth. When all the familiar things fade away. They told me, this is your private room, clean, bright, and comfortable. I stepped into the spotless white space. The bed was neatly made, warm yellow lights glowing gently. Everything was in order, but it didn't feel familiar. Not because the sheets didn't smell like sunshine, like they did at home. Not because it lacked comfort or amenities, but because I wasn't in it. A living space isn't just where you stay, it's where your memories live. We often think moving house simply means moving belongings from one place to another. But truly, a home is a collection of small, personal things we've held close for a lifetime. An old wooden chair where you always read in the afternoons. A curtain your mother once sewed. A chipped porcelain teacup that you still choose every morning. When I moved into the nursing home, I couldn't bring any of those things with me. Not because I didn't want to, but because there wasn't enough space. And the rules didn't allow it. So I brought my clothes, my medications. But I had to leave behind the soul of my home. I continued to live, but I no longer belonged. Real-life example. A faded photo frame in the wind that never came. I used to sleep in a small bedroom where the window opened out to a garden. My wife planted pink roses there in 1984. Every morning, the breeze carried the scent of flowers and the cheerful chirping of sparrows. Now I wake up in a room that feels more like a hotel. The window doesn't open. There's no wind, no bird song, just the soft, steady breath of the air conditioner. I asked if I could hang a family photo on the wall. They politely declined. Room policy doesn't allow drilling holes. I smiled, but my heart sank. Lesson learned. Familiarity cannot be bought, I've come to understand. All the convenience in the world feels cold when it lacks your personal imprint. The familiar, even when old, worn, imperfect, helps us locate ourselves in the world. When those things are gone, you start to lose your sense of place. You begin to feel like a guest in your own life. And when your living space no longer feels like home, you slowly stop wanting to do the things you once loved. You stop watering the plants, you stop reading, you stop caring whether it's Tuesday or Friday, because every day begins to feel the same. In the next part, I'll share something even more dangerous and less obvious: declining health faster than expected. When physical inactivity weakens your body faster than illness ever could. Number 5, purpose fades fast. When routine is taken away. When your sense of purpose fades quickly because your daily rhythm is taken away. At home, every day had its own rhythm. I didn't have to think about it. It was just part of me. I woke up at 6 a.m., made my coffee, read the newspaper, fed the birds, then stepped into the garden to water the plants. These might sound like small, simple things, but they made me feel like I was still a part of life. I wasn't just alive, I was truly present in the day. When you're no longer doing, you slowly start disappearing. When I moved into the nursing home, everything was already scheduled. Meal times, fixed. Bedtimes, fixed. Even bath times were booked like appointments. At first I thought, how convenient, no need to worry anymore. But after a few weeks I realized there was nothing left I needed to do, and nothing left I was waking up for. No one needed my help with anything. No one waited for me to start the day. There were no roosters crowing, no plants drying out, waiting for me to water them. No one saying, "Would you mind making me a cup of tea, sir?" Real-life example, Mr. Walter and the alarm clock that stopped ringing. I had an old friend here named Walter. When he first arrived, he brought with him an old alarm clock, one he'd used for 30 years. "Helps me wake up early for my morning walk," he told me. The first week, it rang every morning. He got up, walked around the halls, nodding politely to everyone. but no one joined him. No one paid attention. By the second week, the alarm still rang, but he didn't get up. By the third week, it stopped ringing altogether. One morning I asked, "Walter, why don't you go for your walks anymore?" He looked out the window, paused for a long while, then said, "What's the point anymore?" Lesson learned. We don't grow old because of age, but because we stop having a reason to move forward. I realized something. When you no longer have something to do, someone who needs you, or even a small reason to look forward to tomorrow, you begin to slow down, weaken, and eventually fade from your own life. Life doesn't need to be grand. It only needs a little something every day that reminds you. You are the lead character in your story, not just an extra waiting for the credits to roll. And once the rhythm stops, once your body stops being challenged or stretched, the next thing that happens is almost inevitable. Coming up, I'll share with you the most frightening truth I never expected: declining health faster than expected. When your body weakens, not because of age, but because you've simply stopped using it. Number 6, the body follows the mind. Health decline from inactivity. When your body follows your mindset, and inactivity makes you weaker faster than age, ever could I still remember life at home. Each morning I made my own breakfast, gave the kitchen a quick wipe, took a walk in the garden, and then finally sat down with my cup of coffee and the morning paper. Nothing strenuous, but it was those little routines that kept my body moving every day without fail. I never imagined that complete rest in a nursing home would cause my health to decline so rapidly. The body is like a machine. If you don't use it, it rusts in a nursing home. Everything is taken care of for you. Need water? Someone brings it. Need the lights on? Just press a button. Need to get up? There's a wheelchair, a staff member, a railing. It sounds convenient, and it is. But that very convenience became the thing that took my strength away faster than any illness ever could. At first, I got lazy about standing up. Then, I couldn't stand up. I sat more, walked less. Within a few months, my knees began to stiffen, my shoulders ached, and I lost the flexibility I was once proud of, even at 80 years old. Real-life example. Ms. Alice in the wheelchair she never wanted. Miss Alice was a strong woman. When she moved in, she said loudly, "I don't need a wheelchair. I can walk just fine." And she did. Every afternoon, she'd stroll around the little garden courtyard. But then one day it rained, so she skipped her walk. The next day she had a headache, so she skipped again. A nurse gently said, "Why don't you just sit in the wheelchair, just in case?" From that day on, I never saw her walk again. A few months later, the legs that once carried her so confidently began to shake every time she tried to stand. One afternoon, she looked at me and sighed, "I don't know when I got this weak. Maybe it was the moment I stopped trying." Lesson learned. Being too easy on your body is one way to accept your decline. I've come to realize the body is like a fire. It doesn't go out instantly. It fades when you stop fueling it. You don't need to lift weights or run marathons. Just walk a little each day. Reach up to get your own shirt. Put on your own slippers. Pour your own glass of water. These small, simple acts are the quiet workouts that keep the fire of life burning, especially in old age. And then when both your body and mind begin to weaken, you start depending on others for everything. Meals, bathing, and eventually, even your privacy. The next part is a painful truth I never expected: the loss of privacy and dignity. When you're no longer truly yourself, even in the most private spaces of your life. Number 7, dignity at risk, the hidden cost of constant assistance. When too much help quietly chips away at your dignity, I used to be the man of the house, fixing squeaky hinges, sweeping the yard, changing the oil in my car, all with my own 2 hands. Not because no one would help me, but because I found joy in doing things myself. But after just a few weeks in the nursing home, I had to learn something new: how to ask permission to do things that once were simply mine to do. Too much help can become a form of intrusion. We often think helping the elderly is an act of love, and it is, when that help is rooted in respect. But here, everything is already done for you. I couldn't choose when to shower. It's scheduled, they said. I wasn't allowed to dress myself. You might fall. I wasn't even allowed to close my own door. What if something happens and no one knows? Over time, I didn't just lose decision-making power. I lost the sense that my body and my space still belonged to me. Real-life example. The unknocked door and the unfamiliar gaze. One afternoon, I was changing my shirt when someone pushed the door open. It was a young nurse, sweet, cheerful, and full of energy. She smiled brightly and said, "Time for your blood pressure check, sir." I forced a smile and quickly pulled down my shirt. She did nothing wrong, but that moment made me feel like a medical object, not a human being. No knock, no pause for consent. Just a routine, a well-rehearsed motion. At some point, I stopped being Mr. James and became Room 305. Lesson learned. Dignity isn't found in grand gestures, but in the right to decide the smallest things I've come to understand. We don't lose our dignity just because we need help. We lose it when we're no longer given a choice in how that help is given. I'm still willing to accept support, but I want to be asked, I want to be respected. I want to be treated like an older adult, not like an overgrown child. And perhaps the hardest part isn't being helped too much. It's realizing that leaving this place is much harder than I ever expected. Because once you've entered, you might never get the chance to return to the life you left behind. In the next chapter, I'll talk about something no one explains clearly at the start. Harder to leave than you think. Why getting in is easy, but getting out feels almost impossible. Number 8. Once you're in, getting out is harder than you think. Once you step in, leaving is not as easy as you think. When I decided to move into the nursing home, I told myself, it's just temporary. If I don't like it, I'll go back. It felt like an open contract. No pressure, no strings attached. But I quickly learned, some doors are easy to enter, but nearly impossible to walk back through. A nursing home isn't a pit stop. It's a system that's hard to leave. At first, I thought all I had to do was say, I want to go home, and that would be enough. But it wasn't that simple. My house, after a few months of being empty, had been listed for sale. My daughter had reorganized everything, thrown away what she thought were old, unnecessary items. I know she meant well, but from that moment on, I no longer had a place to return to. Even if I wanted to leave, I wasn't the same man I was when I first came in. I was weaker, more dependent, and honestly, I wasn't sure I could live alone anymore. And that uncertainty, that quiet fear, was what kept me from trying. Real-life example. Mr. Frank and the dream that quietly faded. Mr. Frank lived in the room next to mine. A former military man, always disciplined and well-kept. When I first met him, he said, "I'm just here to recover from surgery. Then I'm going back." He kept a strict routine, morning exercise, nightly journaling. Every time someone asked, he smiled and said, "I'll be out of here soon." But as time passed, he grew more tired. His legs weren't as steady, and his son had already rented out his former home. One day I realized he had stopped talking about going home. Instead, he said, "I guess this is home now." Lesson learned. Don't assume you can leave whenever you want. Here's what I learned. The biggest trap isn't physical, it's mental. When you stay in a place that slowly weakens you, you start to believe, maybe I can't live any other way anymore. And that's when you're truly stuck. Not because the doors are locked, but because your spirit no longer sees a way out. And perhaps out of all the things I lost, my independence, my health, my freedom, the one I regret the most is not being better prepared from the beginning. In the next and final part, I want to share with you the things I wish I had known earlier. Final reflections, lessons that may help you and your loved ones avoid the very path I once walked. Number 9, assisted living versus nursing home. Know the difference. Don't confuse the two. Choosing the wrong environment could cost you more than you think. Before I moved into the nursing home, my daughter and I stood between two choices: assisted living, a place with light support, and nursing home, a facility for full-time intensive care. They sounded similar at the time, but only a few months into living here, I realized that difference can completely reshape the rest of your life. Assisted living is support, nursing home is replacement. In assisted living, you can still choose your own meal times, prepare light snacks, go outside if you wish, have your own space and a fair amount of independence. It's like living in a small apartment with staff nearby if you need them, but you're still the one running your life. A nursing home, like the one I'm in now, is built for those with serious medical conditions who can no longer care for themselves. Everything is on a strict schedule, under constant medical supervision, and personal choice becomes extremely limited. If, like me, you only needed light help back then, choosing a nursing home was a step too far. Real-life example, Ruth's story and a rushed signature. Mrs. Ruth, a 78-year-old woman, used to live near the old market in a small apartment with a garden. After a minor fall in the bathroom, her son, out of fear and concern, quickly signed her into a nursing home. At first, it seemed okay, but within just a few weeks, she could no longer cook her favorite vegetable soup, hear the church bells on Sunday mornings, make herself tea at 3 p.m. One day, she looked at me and said, "I'm not against being cared for. I just wish my son had understood. I wasn't ready to live like I was dying." Lesson learned. Choosing the wrong level of care can cost you your independence. What I've come to understand is this: choosing where to live in old age isn't just about picking a bed and meals. It's about choosing how you want to live the final chapters of your life. Do you need support, or do you need full replacement? Do you want to be helped, or have your decisions made for you? These are two very different worlds, and sadly, many people get it wrong, simply because no one explained the difference clearly enough. Now that I have lived long enough in what I realized was the wrong choice, I only wish someone had sat down and shown me the full picture before I signed that paper. And that's exactly why, in the final part coming next, I want to share the most important things I've learned, so you won't have to carry the same regrets I do. Final reflections, the last lessons that can help you live the rest of your years fully and wisely. Number 10, final thoughts. Choose with eyes open, not in panic. Final reflections. Don't choose out of fear, choose with clarity. I don't regret growing old. What I do regret is letting others decide for me at a time when I was still capable of choosing for myself. I understand when you're standing at the crossroads between in-home care and moving into a facility, it's easy to panic. You're afraid of falling, afraid of burdening your children, afraid that you're no longer strong enough. And in that cloud of fear, many people choose nursing homes, not because it's the best choice, but because it's the easiest one at the moment. Decisions made from fear often come at a high cost. Hasty decisions made with incomplete information often lead to long-lasting regret. A nursing home may be the right solution for some, especially those who truly need constant medical care. But for many others, it becomes a place where they lose freedom, purpose, dignity, and connection with family. Remember this: you don't have to be sick to see a doctor, and you don't have to be falling apart to plan for aging. Real-life example. One plan saved an entire life. An old friend of mine, Bill, chose a different path. At the age of 70, he sat down with his wife and son to create an aging-in-place plan, staying at home with the right support. They hired a part-time nurse, installed grab bars in the bathroom, rearranged furniture for safety, and stayed socially active. This year, Bill is 84, still living in the house he built with his own hands in 1969. He told me, "I'm not immortal, but at least I'm still living, not just surviving." Lesson learned. You still have the right to choose how you'll live, even in your later years. Here's what I've learned. Preparing ahead doesn't make you weak. It makes you strong, in control, and dignified. If I could go back, I would. Learn more about the options. Have honest conversations with my family. Listen to myself more than I listen to rushed advice. Because a poor decision today might be one you can't undo tomorrow. If you've made it this far, chances are you, or someone you love, are facing an important decision. I'm not here to say that nursing homes are bad. I just want you to move forward with your eyes wide open, your heart awake, and a clear plan in hand. Please share this video with your loved ones, your friends, because many people are still choosing in the dark, simply because they don't know they have a choice. And if you've ever lived through an experience like mine, leave a comment below. I'd love to hear your story. What's one thing you wish you had known sooner?